everyone, and welcome to this holiday edition. Christmas is almost here of the Brewery Underground Podcast. I'm Steve Sullivan, along with Mr. Scott Touron, the Chancellor of Craft Beer. And remember to follow us at Sullivan Touron BreweryAdventures.com. And Scott, we have a fun show today as the year is rapidly coming to a close. We're going to be rating our new and favorite breweries of 2023, along with sharing some of our all-time favorite Christmas movies and much more. So, you got your spiked eggnog ready? Are you ready to go?
I've been sipping on some whiskey for the last 20 minutes, and I've been waiting for the last half hour to open this beer. So I am ready to go.
Well, there you go. So, yes, to start off going forward with, since this is a craft beer podcast, we are going to start off every podcast now with a beer where we drink the beer and then we rate the beer. Let's commence opening our beers.
All right. Let's see. I would have drank beer without the podcast anyway, but
I know you would have. So would I.
I got beer on my microphone.
Uh-oh. Well, in the holiday season, I'm drinking Taft Brewery Santa Bribe. And we'll see at the end of the show today of the podcast what I rated. What do
Where'd
you
you
have?
get it?
At Party Source in Newport, Kentucky, which we haven't really talked about the Party Source too much, what it is. I think we'll have to in a minute, but you go ahead and talk about the beer that you have and where you got your beer from.
I've got the Italian Pilsner, and it's from State of Brewing, which came in my Aldi beer advent calendar for 2023. So didn't know what it was until I pulled it out of the box today.
Love it, love it. Well, you have posted pictures on our website about that too, and on social media. And real quick, as we talked about the Party Source, if people have never been there, Newport, Kentucky, across the river from Cincinnati, it's humongous. It has everything.
Oh, it's one of the best places ever to get singles too. You can walk around that thing for days, and come across different things from this side of the building and that side of the building. So the last time I was there, I managed to get 12 beers in a half an hour, which is probably record time for me. But the place is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
Yeah, it's hard to get in there and get out within, a half hour or so, but I know every once in a while I try. All right, so we had just talked about rating our beers, and we've talked about the Untapped app that we have, and probably a lot of other craft beer lovers out there have. However, let's not assume that everybody listening to this podcast has the Untapped app. So, can you give people a little bit of the 411 on what the Untapped app is and how they can find it?
Yes, it's the ultimate beer logging rating app. I had used one previously years ago and gave up on that one. Untapped is head and shoulders above the rest of them. It's a way you check your beers in, you can log them. It keeps track of what you had. Ultimately, it's to see kind of if you like the beer or not. If you decide you want to go back and have it again, you can rate it, and it's 1 through 5 stars. It's really a quarter of a star through 5 stars, um, and you just rate it kind of depending on your own criteria. Mine is if it's about a 3, if I give it somewhere around a 3, I'll have it again. Most of what I'm drinking probably averages somewhere around a 3.5 or so. Up and then for me, 3.5 to 4, and then from 4 to 5 to me is the upper echelon. It's certain
Absolutely. Yep.
things. Yeah,
Same way.
that's yeah. You can that's for specific special things. So, but it's great. You can log your stuff in. You know, we've got buddies that we live for checking in beers daily.
Yes, they do.
And it's about as many as you can get and uniques and check-ins. I love it. It's the app I use every single day, and I'm in it constantly. And you can friend people, you can chat within it. You can send messages to each other. It's great. It's social media for beer, and it's the ultimate one.
Well, I am Nash Sully. That's how you can find me on the Untapped app.
Yep. And I am S Turon, Stouron. Feel free to send friend requests. We'll happily friend you, especially if you came from listen to it in this podcast. One more thing I'd like to mention too about Untapped is I'm an insider, which means I pay for it. It's free
Ooh,
version.
insider.
Yeah, you get a little
You got
special
that inside
badge on it
information.
and everything. And it's $5.99 a
Ooh.
month or $54.99 a year. Some of the perks you get though, you get special badges for being an insider. One of the things I like the most is you can rate your beers in a tenth of a point. So from zero to to a tenth to 2/10, all the way up to five. So initially I didn't like it, but it does fill a void for me, especially like 3.75 to four. It's like, it's not quite a four, but it's better than a 3.75. So you put something,
Almost.
yeah, you don't drink it, think, oh, that's a 3.8, but you kind of tweak it somewhere in between. So for me, I like it. It works for me, and it's obviously my favorite app. I couldn't live without it.
Well, you got me hooked on it probably back in like 2019 because we were hanging out for a while, and you'd say, "Hey, man, you got to get this app on your phone, and you got to rate your beers." And at first, I was like, "I don't know if I really want to do all that, and I just want to drink beer." But then, as I became more of a craft beer enthusiast, and now that we're doing the show, especially, I really enjoy looking at the stats. And even before we were doing this show, I would go into a brewery to see, okay, if I had anything up on the board yet, even if I have, what did I rate it before? Did I like it? Did I not like it? And it's always exciting, of course, when you've not had a beer that's on the board, and you can rate that as well.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it's for. If you go in somewhere, I don't know if I've had it or not, or I know I've had it. Did I like it? You pull that up, you see what you gave it before. Uh, it's great. It's great for that. You can follow and get notifications from breweries or venues that post something new. You can subscribe to them, and it'll tell you, hey, Southern Grist has posted something new today on their menu, and so you can go and get the latest and greatest.
Absolutely. Well, we want to switch gears just a little bit and talk about a bit of a serious subject for a moment or so. Earlier this week in Nashville, Nashville got hit hard by some severe weather. There was a number of tornadoes that came through the Nashville area. It was Hendersonville, it was Madison, Springfield, Clarksville, all got hit by some tornadoes. There was some loss of life. There was a lot of damage to homes and businesses, and we had, posted on our Facebook page and other social media pages that we were thinking about all those folks because it's been a tough week for a lot of people out there. And I know you were actually coming back into town on Saturday, and you just beat those storms.
Yeah, there was a group of us coming back from Kentucky, and we just happened to leave earlier than we thought for no other reason than let's just get home, not even weather considered. And by the time we got home, a few hours later, we were like, thank goodness we left when we did, because we would have had to come right through there. So we missed it completely. But yeah, our friends up north got hit pretty hard. We've got one of our buddies that was with us in Kentucky lives in Gallatin or Hendersonville. He didn't get hit, but they did lose power for a bit. As far as I know, the breweries up there are okay, but they've lost power for a little bit too. So it's a sad thing. We seem to get one of those every year, every couple of years.
Yeah, we went to a couple of breweries, Hendersonville and Half Batch, um, a couple of months ago. And I know that for a time, a couple of days ago, they were talking about they were without power. I think things for them are okay now. I think they're up and running, and I think they're okay. And we're very glad that they didn't suffer any damage. But it's kind of ironic that here we are, we're talking about tornadoes and severe weather because on our last podcast with Grayson Miller of Crazy Gnome Brewery, he had talked about that. In 2020, a tornado just tore through East Nashville, and it did a lot of damage to the area. And Crazy Gnome Brewery at the time, they were just starting to get up and running, and it set them back for a long period of time. And then COVID hit, and that was also a big time delay too. We're very glad since that time that things are going a lot better for them. And in fact, they're going fantastically well. And you can go back to our last podcast and listen to that episode 5 with Grayson, where he talked about, all the things that they went through at that time.
Yeah, and he's specific on there too. He said, and forgive me, I don't remember exactly, but it was within a couple of days of them opening. They had made the beer. They had gotten everything done finally. They'd made the beer, and they were within a couple of days of actually opening it. And then that tornado comes through and knocked that down for them. They've got a cool. He mentions it on there too. They've got a cool video on YouTube. I think it's Brewery versus Tornado. I don't know if you've got a chance
Oh
to look at
gosh,
it.
yeah,
It's not. You actually get to see it. You get to witness it from inside the building.
yeah. Absolutely. Well, with that podcast, and this is actually the sixth podcast now that we are doing, and one of
What?
the things that
Sixth?
I don't know, right?
Sixth?
Can you believe it?
We've not been canceled yet?
Nobody has canceled us yet. We haven't
No,
canceled each other. So,
not enough people have listened to it yet.
yeah, well, that's the thing. We want to get more people to listen to us. And one of the things that you and I have talked about as we're planning out these podcasts is that we always are going to focus on our brewery travels and the craft beer that we drink, but we also are going to constantly get guests on. We're going to constantly get folks that brew the beer, that own the breweries, and talk to them about the various things that they go through. But the big thing that I really like are the stories that come out of all these because everybody has a different story. Crazy Gnome, they had their story of the last couple of years of what we just talked about. Dark Shadows talks about how they all came together with their brewery that is eventually going to come around, and also Baseline Brewing as well, and how they're doing now. So we've had a lot of good guests so far, and I can tell you this: we're going to have a lot more in the future.
Absolutely. And I've said it, and I've said it in the previous podcast. I'm going to say story a lot when I'm talking to guests because it's the interesting part. It's how did you get here kind of thing. So, and the ones we've had so far have had fantastic stories. Um, but you're right. We have some really cool stuff we're working on for 2024. I'll call, you can't see my quotations, but special episodes. We've got some guests. We're trying to line up some people, and maybe not your typical guests, but we're going to have some cool stuff. We've got lined up. We just got to get it worked out. But along the way, you and I talk a lot, and we write notes down, and we're constantly, coming up with ideas. And is this going to work? Is this going to work? So we've got a lot of stuff. We're not. I don't think we're going to be bland, if anything else.
No, not at
You
all. We're not going to be bland. And by the
not
way,
at all. Like,
speaking of bland, this beer I'm drinking right now is not bland. I'm liking it so far.
I'm glad, I'm glad you said not, because let me see. Let me try this one again.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead. All right.
It's good. It's a pilsner. It's light. It's supposed to be. It's clean. It's refreshing. I would say it's pretty good.
There you have it, ladies and
Still,
gentlemen.
still thinking about what I'm gonna rate it though. I guess we'll find out at the end of the show.
Yeah, you got to wait to the end of the show. Before we get into the main part of our podcast, we do want to mention that a Nashville brewery received a pretty big honor this week.
This is cool. So I saw it. I saw it on social media. I don't exactly remember where, but it's the best new breweries of 2023 according to Hop Culture. I don't know if they're a magazine, but it's hopculture.com. And Fela Force out of Nashville, Tennessee, made that list for them. And their criteria was beer they have or breweries they have visited and drank in 2023. And I think they opened right at the end of 2022. But as far as 2023 goes, they're listed on one of the best breweries in the country, according to Hop Culture. And I concur. They are fantastic. I think they're kind of more of a Belgian kind of style. It's what they like. There's a
Mhm.
really nice article on Hop Culture. I posted something on our social media too. Congratulations to those guys because they deserve it.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I love their name, by the way. Just the name alone, I think,
Yeah,
brings you in.
it is. Their venue's really cool. They've got a nice inside space. The decor is purposeful for what they're looking to do, and they've got a really large outdoor patio area too. So they've got good things happening there. And if you go in there, they must have 6 or 8 styles on tap every single time you go in there, and nothing's bad. I mean, from day one. So you can tell quality beer because the place is always busy.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it. All
Yes.
right. So we are going to hop into the heart of the show today. And we had talked about doing this probably about a month or so ago. Today is the day that we're recording this is December the 14th. So if you're listening to this between now and the end of the year, this listing or in the future is going to be certainly interesting as well. So we have two different lists, and I think when we first started collaborating, it was going to be maybe the same thing, and then it kind of veered off into one thing and the other, and I went, you know what, let's just do that. So your list is your top 10 favorite breweries that you visited in 2023, and mine is my top 10 favorite new breweries that I visited this year. So with that, let's start off on your list, and I think we're going to go from number 10 down to number 1. Is that right?
10-1. Yep. And I think we both did it the same way, didn't we? I think we 10-1, which is the first time we've
Yep.
done this. And if anybody has been on our at our website before, you know that we like top 10 lists because this is our third one we've done. So that's the homepage.
And our
At
website
least,
is Sullivan Touron Breweryadventures.com.
absolutely.
All right.
Um,
So, what is your number 10 brewery of the year that is your favorite?
Number 10 is Barrique Brewing and Blending in Nashville, Tennessee. I like them. They have, if you like sours and barrel aged sours, wild ales, this is a place for you. If anybody's ever had Barrique and have been a Barrique, they'll understand. These are true traditional sours. Fantastic. And they do other things too. Helles, Pilsners, lagers in there too. And they can a lot of stuff here in town. The brewery's great. You walk in there, they've got, I don't know, it might be 200 barrels stacked to the ceiling. I mean, it's full. It's massive, and the tap room's nice and long. They do have an outside area in the back, maybe a little bit in the front. But their beers are fantastic, like real sours. And I mean, they use things like grapes and plums and nectarines and peaches, but it's not that sweet. Sweet sour sounds redundant, but it's
It's
the real
not. It's
sours.
not overly sour. It's not to the point where you just pick it up and you start drinking, going, "I can't do this."
No, no, it's not like that at all. And the barrels they put them in, they put them in a lot of wine barrels, um, and they've got a slow pour tap, which, and I don't know exactly what styles they use that for. I think it's certain styles, but it's an old world style where it comes out real slow, but it's purposeful, and the beer's really good. And again, I don't forgive me for not knowing what styles they use that for, but it's really nice in there. And you can find their stuff in cans, and they've got a lot of 500 milliliter bottles. If you've ever been in any liquor store in Nashville, you've seen them. They got that
Yeah.
little twist top on the top and the cork and the whole thing. And man, their stuff is fantastic. So if you like
So
sours,
believe
and
it
if you
or
don't like
not,
sours, I'd say if you don't like sours, go try them too, because it's not probably your typical sour that you've had.
and believe it or not, Barrique is on the list of breweries I have not been to yet in Nashville, which is shocking. And so that is definitely on my to-do list come 2024.
We are going to fix that as soon as possible.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. All right. So moving down to number 9.
Number 9, drum roll, please. So it's WeldWorks Brewing Company out of Greeley, Colorado. They're north of Denver. We went to Great American Beer Fest, several of us, this past October, I think it was, or September. Anyway, um, WeldWorks was one of the ones that another brewery recommended that we go to. So we went up there, and great space. I think what stood out for me is their beer was really good, and they had stuff like one was called Greeley Gremlin Mutiny's Mockta Milk, which was really weird but good, and it was green, like it was really weird, but in a good way. They had a strawberry cheesecake sour, a blueberry sour. They had a cream cheese Rangoon Goza.
Hmm.
I mean, like we had to have that, and it was the experience was cool. We saw these guys that were in. They all had the same T-shirt on. It said Fox Friday Craft Brewing or something, craft beer, and we saw them go in the back, and they come out with some cans. So we went over and talked to them. Well, they're from Australia. They had done a
Okay.
collab with WeldWorks, and we got to talking to them. And they gave the collab had just come out. They gave us one of the beers to try, and they said, "Don't post this on Untapped until tomorrow," because the world hadn't even seen it yet. So we got one
Nice.
right off the press. So that was cool. And part of my criteria for this list was kind of memories, things like that, little
Sure.
stories. Obviously, the beer's good too, but so that was a cool experience, and I would recommend. You might never know where Greeley, Colorado is, but if you get a chance to go there, I would recommend going.
Well, and it's funny because I was reading over your list when you did that, and even talking about it today. So they serve a green beer all year long, and it's not just around St. Patrick's Day.
Correct. And whatever let me read this again. Greeley Graham, a Mutiny's Mockta Milk, whatever that is, which it is a fruited sour, but man, it is I literally posted on tap. It's good yet weird, but in a good way. It
And
was
do you
just
know how long? And do you know how long they've been there, been around?
I don't. They look new. They look fairly new, but I've had well works here. Like I've had beers from them here, probably through Craft Brewed back in the day. I don't know, but they can't be that old, or at least that building's not that old.
Okay. All right. And then let's move on to your number eight. Number eight.
We're gonna bring it back to Nashville and our friends over at Baseline Brewing Company. Our
Yes.
buddy, yes, our buddy Chris Dolan was our very first guest on our podcast. That's always going to be nostalgic for me. But he was great. You and I have been over there. We drank the beer. The
Yep.
beer is great. The space is great. We have a podcast about it. You can go find it. You could find it on our website, which Steve will give you.
It's
But
there.
it's everything's great, man. They do loggers and they had a pumpkin at Oktoberfest, IPAs. Like if you listen to the podcast, Chris tells you that he tries to keep something on there for everyone. I think even when we were there, they had a cider and a seltzer. Um, so the place is awesome. They've got their own patio over there. They're in that L&L building. Free parking. We talked about that on the podcast. Big fans of these guys. We've got to get back there. We've not been over there since they got food now. They've got a full menu of food that we've
Saw
not.
that. Yeah.
Yep. So we've got to get back over there and kind of partake in that and hang out with Chris a little bit too. But I love the place and I love what they're doing and I love Chris's story and Baseline story.
Well, and I was going to say that too. Guys like Chris, who when you if you go in there and you see a guy like that who is so passionate about the beer, and you're somebody that whether you're a big time craft beer lover or you're just a novice, you're going to appreciate what he's got to tell you, and you're going to appreciate his passion for it.
Oh, and when he was talking, I was mesmerized. I didn't want that podcast to end
Yeah,
because his
we'll
backstory,
definitely
gets
be getting
story,
him back.
yeah, his backstory was great, and how he kind of came up, and how he got to here where he is now, and it great. Anyway, so Baseline was number 8 for me.
All right, and let's go to number 7 on your list.
Number 7, still in Nashville. There's a kind of a theme here. We kind of live here, so
We gotta, yeah, we live here, so we try the
we
beer
get
a
a
little
lot
bit
of
more than say Tupelo, Mississippi, or somewhere.
absolutely. You can see Nashville come up, but we got other cities on here too, a little bit across the board. Um, but number 7 for me is Marble Fox Brewing Company in Nashville, Tennessee. They are in the old or the original Jackalope location on 8th Avenue. Fantastic place. We went in there before they had the grand open, kind of a soft opening, and right out of the gate, beer's fantastic. You and I've been a couple times. They had one called my favorite from them is called Pirouette, which is a New England IPA. It's like 7.1. It's juicy. It's just phenomenal. Everything they've put out from day one is great. They do a lot of different styles as well, which I'm a big fan of. Like brown ales, pilsners, and every time I go in there, they got new stuff. I've met John, the owner, John, the his son, who's the head brewer there. They were at was the Beer Wine and Shine Festival. I saw them
Yep.
there. They're all over the place. Great place. The space is nice. If anybody remembers the old Jackalope, it's not a huge place, but they've even opened it up even more. They took a wall down and they've got a new patio area out there. Place looks 10 times bigger than it was when it was Jackalope.
Well, and if people are not that familiar, if you've been in Nashville before, or maybe you live around the area and you just don't get down that way anymore. When I first moved to Nashville, I worked not far from that area, down on Music Row, and it has so dramatically changed down there. And I can understand the various hotels and also condos that they have down there. It's perfect for people that are especially living down there. All you have to do is just walk down the Marble Fox and get your brew on any time of the day.
Yeah, it's right there. It's the Gulch. It's right there in the Gulch. So,
Yep.
and we've done this Highwire Brewing, which you may hear of here in a couple of minutes.
Maybe a little
Highwire
bit about that.
Highwire Brewing is with a walk-in distance. It's literally around the corner. Peg Leg Porker, what I love, one of the best rib places and pork places in town.
Mhm. Nice.
Fantastic, right around the corner. I mean, literally walk to them. They're in a great spot, like you said. If people live in that area, they're going to get a lot of walk-up traffic.
So let's go into our number 6 brewery. And on your list, that would be Bad Tom Smith Brewery.
Bad Tom Smith. They're in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I mean, look, the name alone wants you to go there, right? You want to go there because of it. They've got a great story. Going to say that again. I'm not going to go into that here, but you can read it on the website. If you go in there, she gives you like a pamphlet. It's like 4 pages long to read. Like it's a real deal. Like it's a
Yeah, it
story.
really is.
It's almost a book. Because and Tom Smith was pretty bad apparently.
Yeah.
So to this, name a brewery after him. That's a great idea. Which
Yeah,
I
they have
think
a lot of
actually,
yeah, yeah, they have a lot of unique beers on their website that are just named after, I guess, things that are associated with Bad Tom Smith. So I'm looking at like American Outlaw and Jackson Hutzler and the Ghost of Bad Tom. It's all on their website. So
yeah,
they
I
must,
bet they never run
unique.
out of ideas, right? You could go anywhere with that, right? Just that story probably leads you to a million different other stories. I love it. I think it was a blueberry ale I had. It made my top 10 uh, beers of 2023 list. So
All right.
the place is that good, and everything we had was fantastic. That one stood out as, man, a blueberry ale, but it was perfect. They do cocktails. They make their own bourbon that they age right there. I don't know where they distill it, but they age it right there. They've got a 120-year-old bank vault
Yes, they do.
inside the
Yeah.
building, which is why we looked at it and was like, what the heck is that? And it's got couches in there. I think they've turned it into some kind of room. It looked like there was a TV. Everything was dark in there the day
Yeah.
we were there, but and I think that's what they said, that they aged their bourbon in there as well. But it holds apparently it's got 100 seats, holds 100 people, put 20 people at the bar and 18 taps. The place is great. It's kind of a neighborhood place too. It's got that neighborhood vibe. You go in there. So if you're in Cincinnati, check out Bad Tom Smith.
Yep, absolutely. And I think one of these days we'll be back there again. So, moving right along on your list here, let's go up to number 5.
Number 5, Zool Beer Company. If you don't know how to spell Zool, it's Xul, and they're out of Knoxville, Tennessee, and they're great. They're kind of hard to explain in the fact that what they do, again, a lot of styles. They do a lot of fruited sours. I talked about
Yeah.
sours with Barrique. This is the opposite of that, but
Okay.
fantastic. I mean, you'll get a flight and it'll come out. You'll get a thick yellow one. You'll get a thick red one. You'll get a green one, but they're really good. They're kind of dessert like, if
Yeah.
you've ever had any of those. Um, I'm going to mention another one here after this one, but that are similar. But the place is huge. They got a huge outdoor area. There was a place next door called Geezers, which went out of business, and I think they're taking that space over. As a matter of fact, I talked to Zool at Winter Warmer, and they're going to make it some. It's going to be Zool, but they're going to make it a special. They're going to have special pours and things over there, so it's going to be a little different. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, but um, I love them. They're great. Again, bright greens, yellows, pinks, but
Well, of course they're
everything's
going to have
good.
orange, and of course they're going to have orange since it is Tennessee country. If you go into that brewery and you probably start singing Rocky Top, I wonder what would happen. Do you get free beer, or everybody just kind of starts singing along with you? I would
Well, I'd leave, but other than that,
imagine.
man, if you're in Knoxville, you can't avoid it. So it just comes with the territory. But
All
I'm
right.
not sure about food. I think there are food trucks out there. Um, but Zool's, you can find Zool here. I found Zool here in Nashville several times. Probably more when craft brewed was in business. But fantastic. Everything they do is cool and good. And again, various styles. But for me, Zool is that fruited sour pastry
Yeah.
dessert kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. And then number 4 on your list.
Okay, this is the one I mentioned that's very similar to Zool, in my
Hmm.
opinion. Southern Grist Brewing Company out of Nashville, Tennessee. And if anybody
Love
has had
Southern
Southern
Grist.
Grist, that's right. And they've got two locations here. They're merged together, but individually they're just as good too. Sour beers, fruited sours, they do a lot of that. But man, they got a whole bunch of other stuff too. They've got a lager series, and they've got a cobbler series, and they've got like a pilsner series, and I think there's the stout series. Everything Grist does is perfect, in my opinion.
And here's a tease for you on our next podcast when we are rating our top 10 beers of the year. I'm pretty sure there's at least one Southern grist that's going to make that list. That's a tease for you.
I'm pretty sure that name's going to come up a few times.
Yeah.
But it's wonderful, right? Like they've got food in both locations. I mean, you reach out to me like, man, we got to get to Grist. Like we haven't
Yep.
been to Grist in a while, so let's go to Grist. So we shoot to
Yeah,
Grist
we haven't
and
been there in 2 weeks. We got to go.
gotta go. In the meantime, they've dropped 10 beers that we haven't had, so we have to go over and get. So I'm just a huge Grist fan. They don't do any wrong, in my opinion. And they're one of the reasons. As a matter of fact, when you talked at the beginning of this about breweries that we've been to and breweries like top 10 breweries of 2023 and like brand new breweries, they're the reason I didn't go new breweries because Grist is always going to be on my list.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, I get it. Absolutely. I get it. Yeah. I hold up
Hey,
my hand on that one.
by the way,
Yep.
do you know what a grist is?
What?
It's it's actually on our website. So if somebody goes checks our website out, they can read it. But it's a grain or batch of grain used for grinding. I looked it up.
All right. On our website at sullivantoronbreweryadventures.com.
That's right.
Yay. All right. How's that beer, by the way, you're drinking?
It's pretty good. I was
Pretty
choking
good.
a minute ago, and I used this to wash it down. So,
All right. Well, you're not done yet, sir. So
mm.
let's go to number 3 on your list.
Top 3. So there's going to be a little asterisk by this next one. Probably should be an
Mm-hmm.
asterisk by the whole list, but there's a tie for number 3. But it's the same brewery, just 2 different locations. So I think I can get away with that. That's fair, right?
Yes.
Okay. So Highwire Brewing in Cincinnati and Highwire Brewing in Nashville. They both opened this year. We've been
Yes.
to them both as they were brand new, almost back to back, within a couple of months of each other. And they're great for different reasons, right? Every Highwire I've been to are unique and they've got their own thing. That rooftop, I think about it just about every day. That rooftop they've got in
Yeah.
Cincinnati is unbelievable. And it wasn't even fitting, like the rooftop was done, but the outside area, the shared
Everything.
space and stuff, yeah. And
And
that
it's
wasn't
still
even
developing. Yeah.
still developing. Yeah, like they had a remote bar they're going to have out there. They got a music venue that you're going to be able to. I'm sure this coming year will have, and you can watch it from the rooftop. You sit out there. It was they had they had that downstairs obviously with all the taps, and then they had an upstairs kind of bar with taps up there too. So um, outstanding. I mean, how
Yeah.
wired, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Outstanding. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we were up there, we were drinking beer, and we just raved about it the whole time we were there. And then that whole, because you're familiar with that area too, so you've seen what was there before. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah. If you live in Cincinnati and I grew up there, and if you say Norwood and everybody's like Norwood, and even the people that are from Norwood will chuckle a little bit and go, yeah, Norwood's a lot better than it used to be. We're coming on, and the whole area is coming on. So all right. So moving on to number 2 on your list.
number two. And when I heard before I'd ever been here, when I heard how good this place was, I was like, no, it can't be. It's Blue Moon Brewing Company out of Denver, Colorado. Because you get the first thing you say is Blue Moon. Isn't that
Blue
owned by
Moon.
Miller Coors? And it is. But they have got their own location in Denver. And man, let me tell you, it's next level. Huge, place is huge, top shelf. I think that the brewing that they do for that place is there, and mostly small batch stuff. Like you can get a regular Blue Moon, but everything else they do there. I mean, they've got 28 tap handles there, and you probably have heard of 3 of the things they have on tap. Everything else
Yeah.
they have there is only in that tap room. I mean, Mexican chocolate lagers and just everything. Full blown food menu. It's top shelf. I mean, I put this in like the upper echelon of breweries as far as what it looks like. Kind of up there. Well, I'll save that for later. But um, it's hard. It's not hard to describe. I hear Blue Moon and you think, ah, it's just Blue Moon. But man, to go into this place, that's absolutely amazing. And their merchandise is good. The beer's fantastic. I mean, you can have 3 or 4 flights and not have the same thing twice.
And they do tours there too. Is that right? Do they do
I
tours?
think they do tours. We've not done one, but every time we go there, I've only been twice, but every time it's like we've got to go to Blue Moon. It's a staple. And if you went a year from now, the beers will be completely different than they are today. So
And I
I,
guess the people that are probably craft beer lovers throughout the country are probably not surprised that any place in Denver, Colorado is almost fantastic for craft beer.
Yeah, they're known. Denver's one of those cities that's just known for craft beer. Put Cincinnati up there. Even we live here, so we'll throw Nashville up, Asheville, Portland, those kinds
Yeah,
of things. But Denver's right there. I mean,
right
you can't
there.
go to a
All right.
bad, but you can't find a bad brewery if you look for one in Denver, in the
All
Denver
right.
area.
Well, let's find out what's right there, number one on your list of breweries that you love and you visited this year.
Well, we're gonna go to a commercial break and then we'll come back. And this is what they call a teaser.
We'll be back in
Number
a
one.
couple minutes, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm sure everybody's waiting with bated breath, but Sweetwater Brewing out of Fort Collins. So my top two were in Colorado this year. And Sweetwater Brewing, first time I'd been was this year up there at Great American Beer Fest. Didn't know it existed. I had no idea they had a Sweetwater Brewing there. And it's not like a little tap room. It's a full blown production facility. Like it's massive. And talking to them there, it serves kind of the West Coast. They kind of brew beer
Hmm.
for the West Coast, where Atlanta kind of the East Coast. So
Right.
much like you see like New Belgium's doing with Asheville and Colorado, and Sierra Nevada does the same thing. So East Coast, West Coast. So Sweetwater is in that range. And man, they brew other stuff. They've got some sister companies that they brew too. Alpine Beer Company, Green Flash, both are brewed out of there. You can get them on tap there. The brewery's remarkable. All I would say is check out the website, look at the pictures. The outside patio seems to go on forever. Full food menu. I mean, just classy. Classy is what I would call it. And
It's like you died
and
and went to heaven when you go there.
it was. And when we were getting ready to go there, everybody kept talking about Sweetwater, and I just thought it was a different, maybe a local pub or something. Man, this was the real deal. And I walked up to it, I was in awe. Um, Again, didn't know it was there, and it would be a staple for me every time we go back. I, Again, upper echelon brewery, just well done, classy. I don't know, like a Sierra Nevada, a Blue Moon, something like that. So that's number one for me, man. Maybe some surprises in there, but if you go to that Colorado, if you go to Colorado in that Denver area, you come across places like this.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah. So
Well,
you've got a list
now
too, huh?
now I have my own list, and this is
All right.
actually for me. This is the top 10 favorite new breweries that I visited this year. So not my favorite, but they are my new breweries that I really like. So since I counted down for you, you go ahead, my friend, and count down for
Number
me, starting with what is it?
number 10 is
Number 10 for me. Here we go, ladies and gentlemen. It is Crazy Gnome Brewery. We you took me out there about a month ago, and when I walked in, it's in East Nashville. I knew that I was going to like this place, and I did. I got a flight there. My favorites include Turn a Leaf and Don't Be a Sucker. They were really good. And as we talked about a few minutes ago, we're not going to repeat ourselves too much, but Grayson Miller, who we had on from Crazy Gnome on our last podcast on Sullivan Touron BreweryAdventures.com, he told us a good story about how it all started and the challenges that they faced during a tornado in 2020 and where they are now. And for people that are coming into town, if you're new and if you're coming into Nashville, whether you're visiting or you just want to try a new brewery, I would highly recommend Crazy Gnome.
wonderful. And they've got some cool stuff coming too. If you listen to the podcast, the stuff they've got coming. Cidery's getting ready to open. They're going to have a new brewery in a couple of years. So look for more cool things for them.
All right.
All right. So that was number 10. So I guess number 9 is up next.
Number
Who's you got for number
nine,
9?
Ducks up next, and I get to say this again. Bad Tom Smith Brewing.
Bad Tom Smith.
So yeah, so that was my one of my favorite new breweries of the year, number nine there. I was glad we went there. I don't know if you remember this, but we made it there having to wait for an Uber because it was after a Reds Yankees game and it was a sellout that night. And we talked about maybe going to a local brewery or something, and it was just like, let's get out of this area. And I said, Bad Tom Smith is on the list. On the list. Let's get up there and let's go. And we did. And some of my
And you had to
favorites
drink
that I did.
you had to
Yeah,
drink
go
your
ahead.
sorrows away after that Yankee win too,
Yeah, I did.
huh?
I
Sorry.
did. Well,
But they're
oh
definitely
well,
worth being on the list twice.
they are definitely worth being on the list twice. And I had the couple of them I had was the Jackie Blue. which was a 5.5% fruit beer, and the Breathitt County, a blonde ale, and a McQuinn's, and the Irish Red Ale. And most of them I rated pretty high. And I've talked about this a few times. Irish Red Ales for me go back and forth. I've had some really good ones, and I've had some not so good ones, but that one rated a 3.75 on Untapped. So that Bad Tom Smith Brewing on number 9.
Number 9. And if it wasn't for that, the music we mentioned, we would have had more beers from there, which
Yeah.
we will do next time we go. So number 8 for you, Steve,
Number
is
8, 50 West Brewing in
hell yeah.
Cincinnati. And this place is really kind of crazy in a good way. It's located really on the east side of Cincinnati. Really one of the more unique places in terms of breweries I've ever been. You go in there, and I knew of them before I ever went there because I purchased several of their beers over the years at Party Source. I had a cousin that had been there and recommended that I go there as well, and so I did. And you and I went there. It's really spacious. They've got picnic tables outside to drink beer, but it's really talk about family friendly. And you can bring your kids there. You can bring your animals there. Well, dogs. I don't know about other animals, but
Leave your llama
probably
at home.
you probably don't want to bring your livestock. But anyway, they have pickleball tournaments there and volleyball. And I know right now during the colder months, they have an ice skating rink and curling and things like that there. So really great. Now my favorite beers over time, not necessarily when I went there, but over time when I've had them was the Going Plaid, which is a 8% Scottish ale, and the Xmas Cookie, which is a winter warmer, and you may be able to get it this time of the year. And they also have a burger bar out there. We didn't go there and get any food the time we went there, but I think that's a really popular thing for them too.
Yeah, and I like the I saw the pictures of the curling that they've got out there, and it's outside ice, like it's full blown courts and stuff. Did you
Yeah,
see what they're using um, for the rock? I guess for the curling part, it's the mini kegs
yeah,
that they're using that they're on ice. It looks cool as hell, man. We got to try that one day.
yeah, definitely. All right.
All right, so that was number 8. I guess number 7 comes after number 8.
I think it does. At least it does in my life. So here we go. This is Tailgate Brewery in Nashville. And if you live in the Nashville area and you like craft beer, you don't have to go far just to find, one of their locations. The reason I like Tailgate is because, well, they just opened one near where I live in South Nashville not long ago. And you and I have been there a couple of times. That's in the new Tanger outlets. Pretty convenient for me to get there and not sit in a whole lot of traffic all the time. I'll still go there anyway. But they change up their beer selections a lot. My favorites have been the Lager Project and the Czech Helles, and also their Mango Milkshake IPA. And of course, Tailgate, they do flights.
They do, and like you said, they're just about every part of town. No matter where you are, there's one. And this is a good meeting point for you and I. If I
Yeah,
come from here and you come home, that's a good kind of a center spot that we can meet up at, which has worked out
perfect.
pretty good. It is. Yeah, and good call on them too because they do good stuff. And they're like, I think I heard last year they made the second most number of beers in the country last year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
almost one a day.
I believe it. I believe it. All right. So moving
All
right
right,
along, sir, count me down.
number 6 for you, sir.
Is Wooden Cask in Newport, Kentucky. And I got to tell you, I truly believe that Wooden Cask is a hidden gem. You don't hear about them too much. It's another place where I had first purchased cans from them over the years, and then had a chance 2 years ago to visit their tap room on Newport on the Levee, and then their brewery nearby that you and I went to last year after going to Bad Tom Smith. And they do a large selection of rotating beers, so it's really hard for me to pick one. Which one was my favorite? I'm really a big fan of the Let the Mango Through, which is a fruited sour, and Reformation, a stout, and Caribbean Night Out. That's a 10.2% porter. But they're all good. And even when we went to their brewery last year, I had gotten a pint, and we were leaving, and I looked up at the board, and I'm like, you know what? There's probably 7 or 8 beers at least on their board that I have not had. So they do obviously a rotation, and you got to love that.
Yeah, and I remember that. I remember that we had gone to the tap room, I guess, initially the first time we'd ever went, and they closed early and kind of a cool vibe. But the brewery itself was really cool, huge. It had some music playing, maybe not live, but it was a different vibe completely than the tap room was. I enjoyed it.
All right.
All right, number 6 was done. We checked the box. On to number 5, sir.
Getting her done. All right. Number 5. Again, Newport, Kentucky getting some love for me on this one. 16 lots, the Southern Outpost. And if you heard the last podcast that we had, I just went there recently, up about a couple of weeks ago. I knew of their brewery in Mason, Ohio, up near Kings Island. I'd never been. I'd never had their beer. When they opened up on Newport on the Levee, my thing was I gotta get there. I spent the night in Newport's. One of the reasons I wanted to was because I wanted to check them off the list, and it's a must visit for everybody. I mean, if you go and you want a great view and a great location, it's right on the Ohio River on the Kentucky side. You look across. I posted pictures on our Facebook page in our Instagram page of the skyline, not Skyline Chili, but the skyline of Cincinnati,
Yeah.
and you got the Ohio River, and they just have a whole lot going on there, and I know they do a lot of different events and stuff like that as well, and everybody was so welcoming. We're working on getting them on a future podcast, but yeah, you got to go. When I went, a couple of the beers I had was the whole lots of cherry cheesecake smoothie sour, and that for me scored a 4.25 on Untapped. Also the best
Whoa.
beer, yeah, and a coconut vanilla brownie, which I also rated a 4 on Untapped. So had the burger and fries too. It was tremendous. I just can rave about this place, and I look forward to going back, and I look forward to getting you there as well.
Yeah, it's the only brewery on either of our lists that I haven't been to. First of all, I was going to ask you, what did you rate the burger and fries? They had kind of 4 or above, or?
Yeah, it probably was up almost at a 5. In fact, the manager had come over and he was talking to myself, my buddy Tom, and he was talking about the burger that they had been working on, and they were trying to perfect it. And I'm like, well, buddy, you perfected this one for me. It's pretty good.
I can't wait to you've talked them up so much, and everything I've seen and read and that you spoke about is a great place. You talk about how friendly they were. I mean, when you got
Yeah.
there and you talked to them and you talked to about the whole place, marketing person, the owners, brewers. So you got to talk to just about everybody there. So they seem real responsive to coming on the podcast too.
Yeah, and real convenient because they do have a lot of TVs there for watching sporting events. I would imagine there are people that during Bengals season are tailgating there, and also FC Cincinnati when soccer season is around, and then when the Reds come around as well. And there's a Purple People Bridge, say that 5 times quite fast, right
I will
outside
not.
that you can walk across and get to the Ohio side. So if you're feeling like you want to do that, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, and we have a in our little Google sheets that we share. We have a little one of the tabs is bucket list breweries,
Yeah,
and I put that on
yeah.
the list. Even though you've been, we're going there next time we go, which will probably be May or whatever that is. But we're going back. We're going there. I have to go.
All right,
All right.
absolutely. All right.
All right. That was number 5. We've reached the halfway point. How about number 4?
Number 4 is Against the Grain in Louisville, Kentucky. And I haven't really spent that much time in downtown Louisville over the years. I lived in that area many, many moons ago, but that was long before they had breweries and stuff. So but Against the Grain, to me, it's a great place. It's located near the minor league baseball park for the Louisville Bats of the Cincinnati Reds. Great beers to choose from, both the service first rate as well. The inside is huge. I mean, they have a great big bar area. They've got a big space inside for to get food and drink. I don't recall. Maybe you do. I don't recall if there's an area outside where you can drink beer or not, or go out and sit. I don't honestly don't recall that.
They do. They've got kind of a shared space out front. And a bunch of tables and things. Yeah. So they got a really big outside area out there. I was pleasantly surprised you had this on the list because remember when we were making that trip to Cincinnati that year? The
Yeah,
Louisville thing was kind of impromptu. Hey, let's just stop in Louisville and stay the night here.
yeah,
And we just hit a couple places, and that was one. And it makes your list for top 10. It's number 4 on your list, which we didn't even plan on going necessarily.
yeah. Right. Very glad we went. And so I've had some really good beers. In fact, a couple of weeks ago when I was up in Cincinnati, and I stopped at a store, I saw an against the grain stout that I got, and this one was kind of wacky. It was the Bo and Luke coconut cream pie, and this was a this thing was an imperial double imperial stout that I rated a 3.75. I'll tell you, I liked it, but after about three-fourths of the way through it, I was like, I am done with this thing. Not because I hate it, but it just started getting a little bit too overwhelming, but a good beer.
Yeah, and they're like 16-ounce cans too, right? They're the big ones.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
Just
ready to be done.
as a side note, they do some cool can art. There's one called Brown Notes. Just look it up. Just look at the picture on the can. That'll tell you
Yeah.
enough. It's
All
fantastic.
right.
All right, man. We're hitting the top 3 here. We are down to number 3, and I can't wait to hear what this one is.
Well, number three is Baseline Brewing, just like you had on your list. Baseline loves mine because I love a good story. As we talked about, Baseline has it. The brewmaster, Chris Dolan, he's fantastic, and we had him on that podcast talking about what he goes through in brewing a new beer and things like that, and really really loved it. And the 5.9% Smashing Pumpkin and their mango, pink guava, and passion fruit sours beer was the ones that I liked that day that I went. And the funny thing is, and I even told him this on the podcast, I'm a big Oktoberfest guy, but when I went in and when we got a flight and we got a pint, um, I was going down the left side of the list, and that was on the right side of the list, and I was like, I cheated myself. So a reason to go back. This isn't really Oktoberfest season as much anymore, but there's always next year.
And we'll go multiple times too. So we'll keep going back till the Oktoberfest is back.
We will.
and, and like we mentioned earlier, they've got a full blown kitchen now and food, which we have to go back to and experience because it wasn't when we were there. They didn't have it opened up yet. So
Yep.
that's something to look forward to. Oh
All
man, if I
right.
could do a drum roll, I would be playing the drum roll right now. We're down the top 2 for you. Now, what is number 2, Mr. Steve?
Number two is it was on your list too. I don't know how much I can add, but Highwire Brewing in Nashville and Cincinnati. Loved both locations. Look forward to going back to both locations. I can tell you that I was blown away by the Cincinnati location, as you said a few minutes ago. They've got that rooftop, and it's a whole area that's it's called Warehouse 50 that they're developing there in Norwood, north of Cincinnati. And so we'll definitely be back there probably in a couple of months. And I think we'll be back at Highwire in Nashville really soon too, because they have a great location. And I love the fact that they do flights. The 5.1% Japanese rice lager has gotten a 4 rating from me on Untapped. And also their Oktoberfest got a pretty good rating, 4.25 on Untapped as well. So love Highwire, love what they do, and definitely look forward to getting back and having more of their beer.
Yeah, and I don't remember how many Cincinnati had, probably the same amount, but I think the one in Nashville's got like 24 taps. I mean, it's every time you go, it's
Yeah,
just like you talked about a baseline, the left side. They've got that at High Wire too. They got a left side and a right side. You can just work off the left side or the right side and not get them all. I mean,
right,
there's so much. So, which is wonderful. It gives you another reason to go back.
exactly.
All right, man. We are down to the final one. I'm waiting with bated breath here. What is
The
number 1 for you?
final one, sometimes I rave a lot about stuff that I like, and this place. When we went to Cincinnati last year on our baseball and breweries tour, this was the first place that I wanted to go. We had gotten into town. We actually were in a traffic jam for about a half hour downtown, and I was driving, and I wasn't a happy guy because I'm like, I gotta get to a brewery soon. And so Sonder Brewing, we went up to their location in Mason, which is a couple of miles from Kings Island, if people are familiar with that area. And it's so tough because I have so many favorites, but my first encounter with Sonder was a few years ago, and I was purchasing their cans at Party Source, and I liked each one, and I added them on my list of breweries to get to. And really, honestly and truly, when we Ubered there, and from the moment it got out, it was just kind of like this is like a Taj Mahal. I mean, it's a tremendously big location, and you walk in and the inside is just so darn big. I mean, it really is. I think on their website they say they have like 2,000 square foot. There's a beer garden outside with a lot of picnic tables and other places to sit. And the day we got there, we were probably there for about 3 hours. We had a couple of flights, and there was a couple there that were sitting there, and they were keeping us entertained the time we were there. They were really cool and funny too. So we had a lot of fun there.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect going. I don't know if you had any inkling as to what the place was going to be like when we got there, but blown away, absolutely blown away. It was, yeah. We had a perfect day. We made friends. Um, that's a funny
Yeah.
story in itself,
Yeah.
but but it was a great time. And what was the? You're probably going to go into it, but well, go ahead and tell me where your favorite beers were because one of them just
Okay.
blows me
Yeah.
away. That's
So some of my favorite beers, one of them was I would never have expected this beer to be that good. And it was a
mm-hmm.
root beer float ale. Now I like root beer. I haven't had root beer much in the past few years. And I remember getting that on a flight thinking, all right, I'm gonna see. And it was on my second flight. I'm like, I'm gonna see if I like this. And not only did it taste like craft beer, it tasted like root beer, but it wasn't like overpoweringly sweet. And so it was really good. And
Well, you kept
I
raving
liked it a
about it, and
lot.
I'm like, man, it's just root beer. It can't be that good. And I had
All right,
some, and
what
I'm
are you
like,
doing?
yeah, I couldn't believe it how good it was. You wouldn't think that would translate to a beer of some sort. I know
Yeah.
they make hard root beers or whatever, but yeah, that was pleasantly very good. It was.
What
Go
was
ahead. I
what
didn't mean
was
to cut
really
you off.
what was really funny on the site, and I'll talk about beers that I did like, but what was really funny, and I actually drank these back to back, and when I went in to get my second flight, and I looked up, and I'm like, I gotta do that, and I gotta do that, but I drank them back to back. So the first one I drank, they have. I'm gonna try to get this one right. I don't think I'm gonna get the whole name of it right, but they had a beer at the time. Maybe they still do. It's a funnel cake beer from Kings Island, and this thing was kind of wacky. I think they still have it on their website. I mean, I went to Kings Island a lot as a kid. We've all had funnel cakes. I'm not the biggest funnel cake guy now, and I thought I'm just gonna try it. It wasn't my thing. I can understand why people would like it. I'm not gonna talk bad about it necessarily. It just wasn't the kind of tasting beer that I would want necessarily. And I didn't have like high expectations, but I went from that to the root beer float ale, and I'm like, holy cow, this is this is crazy. It's like, what am I doing? So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
It could have been back to back disasters, but it wasn't. I mean,
It
you were
wasn't.
raving about that thing. I was like, I have to try it. I have to see how good this
Yeah.
thing is. And you were right. It
Yeah.
was really good.
Yeah. So some of the other beers I've had there that are pretty good too is their 6.5% blonde ale, which scored for me a 4 on Untapped, and others I've really liked is You Betcha and New England IPA and uh, their Divot, and then the Ale of Two Cities store and Storyteller. And I did bring on my last trip up to Cincinnati, I did bring back a Sonder, which I've not had before. Don't ask me what it is on the top of my head because I can't remember. But I'll be drinking it soon, and I'll be rating it soon. And also, just one other thing about Sonder, they just opened a second location just recently in Westchester, north of Cincinnati. In fact, I drove past it, kind of waved when I was up there. I didn't get a chance to stop there. I was like, I'll be here soon, or at least I'll be at the Mason location. So,
Yeah. And it's funny about these top 10 lists that I had to go back through and I made a list kind of where I'd been this year. Some I didn't remember, some I didn't realize were this year. It's hard to pick 10, man. It really
it
is.
is.
It's we had been to a bunch. I mean, there's a whole bunch of honorable mentions that we don't even have on here that we could have put on here and talked for another hour about it. So we've been to some really good places
When
and
I
more to
was
come.
yeah, when I was wrapping things up on my list, I thought I could do probably about 15, 20 honorable mentions. So those are our ratings for 2023, and we'll have more coming out for 2024. And hey, real quick, before we get out of here, Scott, before we rate our beers, as we talked about, Christmas is here. You got any favorite Christmas movies?
Oh my God, Die Hard, duh.
I can hear Bruce Willis now. It's not a Christmas movie.
That's a whole nother podcast.
Yeah.
No, I would say I go back and forth a little bit, but I would say I'll give the top three: Christmas Vacation,
Yep.
A Christmas Story, and Elf. And the first two probably could flop 1, 2, and Elf is probably third. But those are my three, man. I could quote. That could be another podcast by itself too, because
Yeah,
there's a
definitely.
lot of funny, and everybody loves Christmas Vacation, but yeah, those are
Christmas
it. You can keep.
Vacation.
Yeah. What about you? You got it. You got some?
I don't go without a holiday without watching Christmas Vacation. So absolutely. And then I always loved the Home Alone movies 1 and 2.
Yeah. Yep.
Macaulay Culkin and Joe Pesci and Daniel Stern. I mean, them guys, they just made me laugh. And I was watching. I hadn't seen Home Alone 2 in forever, and it was on recently, and I'm watching that thing, and I'm like, this thing is so stupid, but it's so funny.
It still cracks
And
me
so I
up though.
loved it. And I don't know if this one is necessarily a Christmas movie, but it had like a Christmas theme during the movie. If people go back to the 80s, Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, and there were a lot of other Jamie Lee Curtis in that movie too. And I always thought Trading Places was sort of a Christmas movie, and there might be some of our friends or other people that are going to listen to this and go, Steve, Trading Places is not a Christmas movie. So
It's Christmas time.
yeah, it's Christmas time.
Yeah.
And of course, the
time,
other
of course.
honorable mentions, if you get the cartoon ones out there, Rudolph is always fun, and a Charlie Brown Christmas is always fun as well. The Charlie Brown tree.
Yeah, that's what there's a million of them, and some might qualify as Christmas, some might not, but hey, it's whatever you like, man.
But it's my list.
It is. It's you do whatever you want. And I love when A Christmas Story comes out at Christmas. It was like Christmas Eve or sometime at Christmas Eve. It'll play for 24 hours on TNT or TBS or something. I just leave it on that channel and let it play.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, hey, before we get out of here, we've started the show drinking a beer, and now it's time to rate our beer.
Oh yeah.
So,
oh man, we gotta rate this thing. Okay.
I'm gonna give you a moment or so to
All right.
get yourself in order.
I have a number. In my head. It's gonna go back and forth. All right. So I'm gonna go with a 3.6 on this because I can rate in tenths of a point. So I'm gonna go 3.6 on this. Not quite a 3.75, but more than a 3.5. 3.6 for me, which for me is above average.
All right. Yay.
All right. What about you? Have you made a
All right.
determination yet?
The Tap Brewing Company Santa Bribe. This is the second time I've had it. I had it a few years ago, and I'd gone in to look to see what I rated the first time. It was 3.25 that I rated it the first time. I'm gonna give her a 3.50 on the second time.
Look at you.
I'm feeling very festive this holiday season.
And maybe your taste buds have evolved. Maybe you like that style a little better now. Hey.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
At least it went up. I mean, I'm sure Taft would love to hear that you went up and not down.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, Scott, listen, my friend, it's been fun, this podcast. We're going to be back soon, right?
Yes. And before you go, I want to say Merry Christmas to you, sir, and appreciate you running this show because I couldn't do it, obviously, by myself, but appreciate
Am I running
you.
the show?
You're kind of running the show. I think everybody agrees with that. I'm color commentating at best. But I appreciate you. Merry Christmas. And I'm going to see you before Christmas, but cheers, my friend.
Chances are. All right. Cheers to you too. And we appreciate everybody out there listening once again. Brewery Underground Podcast. Listen to us at Sullivan and Touron Brewery Adventures.com. And we'll be back soon, everybody. Cheers.
Cheers.